Repeat after me. I will not send emails while pissed off. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's podcast. Let's get into it.
This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. And here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Okay. A week or two ago, in one of our task coaching calls, one of the amazing advisors said, I'm struggling with something. Can you help me? And so we walked through it. And what it was is that she was working with a client. Basically, it was, did I do something wrong? That was her first question. Did I do something wrong? And she walked us through the process. Her clients were looking at a river cruise, which she was so excited to be able to sell a river cruise. Like, let's be honest, you know what the commission is. I know what the commission is. Selling a river cruise is a fabulous thing. And it was also a direction of her business that she wanted to go in. So this was going to check all the boxes. Clients reached out. They had a specific cruise line in mind. And after doing the consultation, she was pretty sure this wasn't going to give them the experience that they were looking for based on what it was that they said. And so she went to work, did the research, and I believe it was only like 24, 36 hours later, she had the proposal. So she reached out to them and said, I've got everything ready. Is there a time that you and your spouse can get together so that we can go over everything? And then 24 hours later, the response came in. Thank you so much, but we actually went ahead and booked online. Or booked elsewhere, actually, I think it was. I don't think she said online. It was booked elsewhere. And the advisor is sweet as pie, sent an email that basically laid it out and said, I did everything for you. I did the research. I did this. I did all of that. And I don't get compensated for it. Like, I am genuinely unimpressed. And when I asked her, I'm like, oh my goodness, why did you do that? And she said, because I was pissed off. I sent an email while I was pissed off. So that kind of became the mantra of the rest of our task call of, we don't send emails while pissed off, because that doesn't end well. And in particular, in this particular situation, it was a referral. And not that you want to send emails when you're totally mad, because it's not ever going to show the best version of yourself. You know that, I know that when we're out in public and somebody upsets us or whatever, we get to choose how we respond. The same is true in your business. You get to choose how you respond, and not all responses are required. And so I kind of wanted to take a few minutes today and go through this. It happens to everybody. My goodness, I recorded a podcast. Probably about 2 years ago now. One particular podcast I recorded, it was actually about, it was based off of another podcast I had been listening to. It was another company did a podcast where they had a whole bunch of host agency people on there. And this particular person from this particular host agency had said that she tells advisors, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was 10% of your commission should be set aside for gifting. And I recorded one episode to rebut that. But it was spicy AF. Like, there was no way that I could could release it in its current state. So I actually had to re-record it. And even that one, it was spicy still, but it wasn't as spicy as the first one. The first one, I let my opinions fly. And then I had to go take a walk, and I had to decompress, because I was like, I cannot believe. First off, let's talk profit. Okay, hang on. I'm going to, I got to stop myself, or else the spice is still there. We're going to chase a squirrel for a second. Do not just automatically assign blanketed numbers like 10% or 20% or whatever it is, particularly if you have not calculated what your margins are in your business to begin with. Sorry, we can't go any further. I'm in it. Like, this episode will take a whole other direction. Gifting is a whole other conversation. Maybe we're going to have to do another podcast on that, because I think that other one is a long ways back. And I feel very strongly about this. But no, you do not have to gift 10%. Or technically, you don't even have to gift anything. Your service is the gift. But anyhow, we're all human. Like we are humans living a human experience, making human mistakes. The difference between the different humans is how we respond to those and how we take ownership when we do screw up. And so, one of the things that I said to this particular advisor, I'm like, okay, well, the genie's already out of the bottle. What we do with it from here on out is what's going to make the difference. And so that's what we focused on, particularly because this had been a referral. I wanted her to, or I guess the question I asked her, is this reflective of your brand values? And she said, no. I said, okay, do you want to attempt to correct it? And she said, yes. So what I said to her is, based on the fact that that was not part of your brand values, that was not reflective of who you are, not reflective of the type of business interaction that you want to create, I would send, pardon me, a follow-up that speaks to that tells them, I've had a little bit of a moment to reflect, and I want to apologize for my previous email because that is not reflective of who I am, how I want my clients to feel. I was just so deeply disappointed, and use that word disappointed because that is ultimately what triggered feeling pissed off. It was the disappointment. It was the disappointment of not getting to book a river cruise, not getting to work with those particular clients. She was really excited to work with those clients. And of course, disappointed that the referral didn't come through. And so use that term disappointed. And so I'm really disappointed. I was just so disappointed that I wasn't going to get to work with you. Not that I didn't get the booking, but that I didn't get to work with you. Because when I didn't get the booking, well, then it still wasn't about them. It was solely about the transaction. You want to make it about working with the client, because ultimately, if it's just about the transaction, you're going to lose them on the transaction. If it's about building the relationship, you will win them on the relationship. So we want to make sure that they know that you were disappointed and that you're disappointed in not being able to work with them, but then at the same time that you're disappointed in the way that you reacted. Be the grown up, be the adult in the room, take responsibility, take accountability, and respond likewise. There's a thing that they talk about called emotional maturity, but that's not the actual term for it. And it's totally emotional intelligence. That's the word. I'm like, EQ. What is that? Emotional intelligence. That's the term I'm looking for. And what emotional intelligence is knowing the difference between what is truly an emotion, like therefore a reaction or a response, and knowing what is the proper way of handling it. And not proper is in that's what your mama told you, but rather, what is the mature way of handling it? What is the responsible way of handling it? Because otherwise, then all we do is we set this whole cascade of dominoes of emotions flying in all different directions. But when you have emotional intelligence, you're able to take a pause. You're able to take a beat. And there's a number of different ways that you can work with that. One, go take a walk. Literally, legitimately go take a walk. Get the blood pumping through, get outside if you can, get some endorphins going, look for the happiness. And also to take a moment and ask yourself, is this the hill you're willing to die on? Is this the moment you are willing to sacrifice your reputation? Or in the grand scheme of things, is it actually even worth it? Because there is that saying, I am a huge believer, people don't remember what you do. People remember how you made them feel. That's where emotional intelligence comes into play. How did you make them feel in that moment? How did you make them feel when they opened that email, when they got that voicemail, when they saw that social post, when they saw you tag them? I cannot get over the way that people treat businesses online nowadays, the way that they feel like they have carte blanche to say whatever they want solely because they're still in their mama's basement and they are tickety tick tick ticking on the computer keys, and going with this anonymous stuff. I think it's genuinely changed our society in so many ways. There's also public figures that are speaking in ways that we would never, ever years ago have thought was even possible, much less acceptable the way it is. And so you get to choose what is your emotional intelligence. What is the way that you're going to respond to these? And yeah, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. But what you can do is how you handle it going forward. And we've all made these mistakes. We have all hit send and been like, that feels good. And then the moment you take your finger back off the key, you're like, what did I do? What did I say? Holy crap. Oh, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe it doesn't hit you right away, but it's when you're bright, like, haha, I showed them, and the other people give you that face that you suddenly realize maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. So here's what I would do the next time. Because we can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can ask for forgiveness. You can apologize and take accountability. Trust me, that will go much further than you realize. But then for the next time, whether it's referral or whether it's not, just simply, I want you to thank them for letting you know. Okay? Thank them for letting you know. And then ask them, I'm always curious, is there a way in which I could have been a better service to you to have secured your business going forward? Because I really enjoy working with people just like you. And this will help me to be able to better my business going forward. Now, you have to be open to the fact the feedback may not be good. Right now, I'm still going through the surveys from our idea to sold out groups. Not all the feedback was positive. You have to be willing to take that. Quite frankly, the feedback that wasn't positive was some of the best feedback that's going to help improve the program going forward. It's just not the easiest to read, but it's the most beneficial. That being said, you can't take it all personal, because somebody might have been like, well, you were going to charge this, or you were so much more, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You've got to be willing. I actually had a business coach that said you can't take the negative personally. The flip to that is that you can't take the positive personally either. You have to be willing to just accept it as data and just, okay, we're going to put that into a box. You also want to lead with curiosity. Find out, what did they book? In this particular case, from my understanding, it was a river cruise and it was a well-known brand. And my anticipation is that because they were very fixated on the fact that there was a very tight deadline to a very important promo, that I suspect they ended up on that cruise line's website, got cookied like crap. And so anytime they looked at anything on social, looked at anything where Google, I'm going to bet that cruise line popped up over and over and over again. They may even have made a phone call to said cruise line. And as a travel advisor, you and I both know the pressure certain river cruise company in particular applies to their clients. Heck, I've called there once or twice in the years as a consumer just to see what that would look like, because I always love to test out suppliers. What does the consumer response look like? And the level to which they pursued was off the charts. So put yourself into the client's position. If this is what they're seeing, if they're seeing that there's a limited time, that there's only so much, because one of the things that had come out is that they didn't want to do certain flights. And so the advisor had researched the flights. So she had great flights for them and other such, versus this other one had a free flight promo, and it's not going to be able to do what the travel advisor could do. Like, there were so many differences, but here's the thing. And this can, again, part of the conversation of our task coaching call, this is what I love. It's collaborative. So other advisors in the chat, they were like, hey, if they booked with said cruise line, they probably will let you take over the booking and let you be able to still manage it and whatnot. So again, this is where you can't just tell them off. Because when the other advisor is like, hey, if that's what they did, you may still be able to take over the booking. You can't go from, and spewing your anger on them and then being like, hey, I just found out I could take over that booking if this is what you do. Like, you've got to, every time you have an interaction with a client, you are potentially still in a sales conversation because there's still a possibility they could become your client in the future or become your client now. Obviously, if they booked with another travel advisor, I will never, ever, ever endorse taking away a booking from another travel advisor. But from supplier direct, and that's an option, 100%, I would be working on it. So what do you do going forward? No immediate response is required. If you need 24 hours, you need 24 hours. That's okay. There is no necessity for a response within an hour. In this last year and a half, I have dealt with so many lawyers and accountants and this, that, the other. And I promise you, immediate responses don't happen. Like, they just don't. When you are dealing with professional services, it's not immediate. It is not instant. It is going to be within an hour or a couple hours, or in some cases, a week or two, just depending on what things are. Go for a walk. Walk it out. Breathe in the good air. Go do a workout. Go do some strength training. Have a punching bag, work it out, punch it out. Write it out. Write out your response. And then I want you to take your email you got from them, the response you've written, put it in AI and ask it, these are my values: service, respect, integrity. Like, list off, what are your values for you as a human, for you as a brand? What are those values that you have? And ask it, where do I fall short? There is a good possibility AI is going to be like, whoa, you missed it. Like, whoo, nope, this comes through. You can also put it in and ask AI, what attitude or what temperament is this being delivered in? Because you also have to realize that even if you tamp it down a bit, you're still writing while you're angry. And you're like, no, I disguised it well. You may not have disguised it near as well as you think you have. And more importantly, your client's human too. So depending on what they're feeling in the moment that they're reading what you've written, they're going to hear it in that voice. They're not going to necessarily hear it in your voice. They're going to hear it in the voice of how they're feeling right in that moment. And understanding this is one of the few interactions they've had with you. Find yourself a business bestie. Maybe they're not even in the industry. My business besties aren't in the industry, but when I have an email that I need to send that I don't have the right words for, or that I'm like, oh, this really got under my skin, I take a moment, I go for a walk, I, do whatever, come back to it. And then I still send it to them and say, okay, this is the situation. This is my response. How's it sound? And sometimes they're like, oh, I bet that. I have a friend, she sends me hers. And I remember once she sent it to me, I'm like, ooh, that must have felt so good to write. She's like, totally. I'm like, perfect, delete it. And she's like, what? I'm like, oh no, I could tell how cathartic it was to write it because I could feel the venom coming off of it. She's like, but this is so much softer than what I thought. And I'm like, no. Like, you need to start over. And so you need somebody who's willing to tell you, no, we need to not do that. And if you don't have that, or if you want somebody in the travel, then come join a community like our task. Now, here's what I'm going to put as a caveat. It does not have to be tasks. However, it needs to have a coach. Why a coach and not just a travel advisor? Because a coach is going to be able to walk you through that different perspective. Other travel advisors are like, oh, I hate it when clients say that. You nail them. You get them. Like, this is, and you see that in the Facebook groups. If you're a part of travel advisor Facebook groups, which I'm sure you're a part of, some of them, do not take advice from some of them. Straight up. And that is why it's so important to work with a coach, because a coach is that, or at least one that's done the work, done the training, done the, the constant skill upgrade. I spend a lot of time, money, and resources in improving my coaching skills so that I can help travel advisors like you to be able to take a breath, to be able to really and truly just like, nope, I know it would feel really good to write right now, but it's not going to help your business. And so make sure that you're working with somebody who is able to have that separation. Yes, I've been right where you are. I was a travel advisor for nearly 2 decades, I sold travel for more than 2 decades. But right on the front lines, day to day for a lot of years with walk-in traffic, phone calls, emails, the whole shebang, seeing it in all the different directions. I know that clients can be crazy. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Society has dubbed them the Karens and whatnot. If your name is Karen, that is not intended to be directed at you in any way, shape, or form. But there is that stereotypical. And so they're out there, and don't take their bait. Just don't take their bait. I learned early on, when you have somebody who's coming for you, nothing makes them more frustrated than when you don't take their bait. Like in some ways, that's almost the best. I don't want to say revenge because that's a really bad way of doing it, but like that's almost the best way to respond to it. And then the emotional intelligence side is where you're going to take a breath. If it's somebody on the phone, take a breath. You do not have to give an immediate response. That was actually something a coach of mine, when I had my travel agency and I had an issue with all of my staff while I was away, he said to me, you do not owe them a response today. You owe them your attention. You owe them your research, and you owe them a response in an appropriate time frame. The time frame is not immediate. When you were working with a client, when you were working with a VA, when you're working with a team, when you're working with other people, and somebody says something that is going to trigger you off the chart, it is okay to disengage that conversation and say, you know what? I just need to take a few moments and step away and do some research on this. I just need to look into that. It's okay to not respond right in that moment. So repeat after me. I will not send an email while pissed off. Trust me, that is probably the best advice you're going to get in business, no matter what industry you're a part of. Do not send emails while pissed off. Until next time, happy selling.